How's it, guys? This is Davey FP and welcome back to the Deadline with Davey live stream. Can I get some likes for being actually on time this Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are around the world? We're going to be revolving around double/blank game week 33. A lot to talk about. Unfortunately, for the kind of excitement of this stream, I did my transfers last night and I can't see myself doing any more transfers. So this stream might be boring from my point of view, but it does give me the maximum amount of time to answer your guys' questions, as well as hopefully build a freer draft that I think, if you guys are on the chip, should get you quite a few points. So in terms of the transfer that we did make, I'm going to start off the stream with talking about my team. If you guys do join late, as probably some people will, I'll refresh you about what I did, my kind of thinking behind it. And as we kind of get on the stream, I'll answer more of your guys' questions. And as I said, hopefully build a freer draft. So as always, let me know if the audio, the video is sounding quite good. Did notice my camera is looking a bit faded, so I think I'm going to have to edit some settings somewhere, maybe in OBS or on the actual kind of software of the webcam. But hopefully, besides the video looking faded, hopefully the sound is coming across good. I know someone in yesterday's stream said it's a little bit soft, so if it is a bit soft, turn it up to the maximum volume, then I can always adjust it if you guys say it's not too loud. Morning, Patrick. Hopefully you're doing well. Morning from New York City. So you're probably in the early hours of the morning or maybe even late night. That seems quite a hectic time, but well done for joining the stream. Hopefully you get some insights here, and hopefully it's a good game week and you're rewarded for waking up so early. So a lot of people asking about wild cards, that sort of thing. We'll address those as we get on. Same with the Freet and all the transfer questions. But in terms of my own team, I've gone over to fpl.team, but you guys can let me know. Do you prefer this kind of layout, or do you prefer the actual fantasy layout? The only reason I'm saying that is that I think when you look at the names of the fixtures or the teams that they're playing, the Premier League website is a bit faded, it's a bit small, whereas fpl.team, it's slightly bigger, and therefore I think a better layout. So just let me know in the comments if you want me to go back to the normal. I can kind of show you guys here, but this will be a little bit out of sorts. But what I can do is I can almost use this, but it's a bit small if you kind of get what I'm saying. So that's why I'm going to go over to fpl.team, but I can always switch it if you guys do prefer. So this was the team going into this deadline. I had made no transfers, but last night Doherty was actually going to drop in price. That actually happened. Then also Chris Wood was going to rise in price, and he was an option that I was considering bringing in. Now between my forward options, we had Lacazette, who missed training yesterday once again. And therefore, as I said in the stream yesterday, if you miss the Southampton game, that's basically double game week 33 out the window for me, because Southampton away is the plum fixture there. Not really expecting Arsenal to do too much against Chelsea away. So that's why I needed him to play. And once news came about that he wasn't training yesterday, wasn't even at the training ground, I think the general consensus was those personal reasons might have been that he tested positive and was showing symptoms, and therefore he was going to miss the game, and that's why I had to take him out. I was going to take him out next week anyways, but now I could maybe take a punt on a Chris Wood. I was also looking at a Che Adams, but then I'm doubling up on the Southampton attack, and that might not be too great. So I decided to go for one of either Gucci, St. Maximum, and Chris Wood. And I tell you guys, that was a hard decision. You guys know how I love Gucci, but I had to go with the Chris Wood, the more stable option, the more reliable, a little bit more of a boring option, but have to represent the Southern Hemisphere. And I brought in the Kiwi last night, and he rose in price as well. So in terms of the transfers we made, I took out Doherty, and I brought in Shaw. Out of the other defenders for Newcastle, there were some that are coming at the same price. A Dan Burns, an option. There's a slight concern about maybe a Shaw being rotated with Lascelles, but I think that he should start both, and those direct free kicks occasionally just kind of swung it in his direction for me from an attacking point of view. There were some other options like a Kraft, but I thought that might be a little bit too sideways. Maybe when Keogh comes in and rotates. And then there was an obvious option, the Target, that came more expensive. But I wanted to save enough value, and I'll show you guys my transfer plan next week that I could potentially do. So in terms of Shaw, he came in for Doherty. And then also I took out Lacazette. I needed a bit of value for the upcoming moves. And therefore Lacazette came out, and I brought in Chris Wood. So I confirmed those moves last night. Mentioned this over on yesterday's streams. Whenever I do transfers, I post them on Twitter. And when I post them on Twitter, it's gospel. It's going to be confirmed, as some people were writing the replies. So these are the two transfers we did. Now, though, we're looking at captaincy. So currently my captain was on Saka, but I just don't know. I just don't know about those Arsenal fixtures. There have been some injuries to the squad. I mean, without Lacazette, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, they might play better, they might play worse. A lot of Arsenal fans seem to think that Lacazette really does not play well. I just think that Chelsea away game is a little bit of a minefield for me. I think Southampton away is perfectly fine, but I just almost want to go for an option that has the potential to score in both games. And if you look at my double game week players, it's not going to be Weghorst, it's not going to be Breuer, it might actually be Chris Wood. So currently Chris Wood is my captain, and I have the vice captain on Saka. A little bit of a punt there, I won't lie. You guys might not like this move at all, but I just think this week, if you don't have a United captain, you can punt. And I mean, might as well go for Chris Wood against a tied Leicester side and a tied, hopefully, Crystal Palace side. So those are the moves that I have done. I'm pretty sure there'll be some of you roasting me in the comments, but that's what I did, and that's kind of where I am at currently. In terms of other moves I can do, I can't even bring a United option in if I wanted to. The only option I could probably do it for is either Son or Salah, but I don't want to take Son or Salah out. I don't think it's worth it in my opinion. Next week, yes, they do have a double game week, but I think it's against Arsenal and Chelsea. Not too great in my eyes. So that's what I'm going for. Actually, just checking chat there. Sanjay saying this layout by a mile. Thank you. I appreciate it. And Zodiac also saying F4 team looks better. So thanks for the feedback on that one, guys. But so I have chosen the right layout to kind of go for. Always appreciate any comments about that you guys want me to improve the layout or something like that. So just on saying Wood or Gucci. So I'll go back to kind of my thinking behind that. So out of those two, I just think Wood's more reliable for 180 minutes. I think he's on penalties as well, which is quite a benefit to kind of a struggling side to score. I know that's kind of ironic. I'm captaining a player from a side that's struggling to score, but penalties are a major factor. And I think against a tied Leicester and Crystal Palace side, we might see some more defensive mistakes from that tiredness. And then maybe he does get a penalty and hopefully converts it. In terms of Gucci, I just think the injury proneness took me away from him a little bit. I don't think he'll play a full 90 minutes. And whenever he does come off on the substitution, he always looks like he has a knock. So that's why, unfortunately, I do love St. Maximin, but I had to go with Chris Wood as I want to play him next week against Norwich as well. And that's kind of what it came down to. I needed a stable option for the next 2 weeks. And yes, it might be slightly more boring than Gucci, but I think Wood is one to go for in my opinion. Have you got a free hit yet? Jack, I do have a free hit left. I'm going to use it potentially 36, 37. I didn't want to use it this week just because I think the single game week players have relatively good fixtures here. Yes, I know in game week 37 it's the same case. Spurs have a good fixture, Liverpool, those sort of options. But at least then we can kind of see and assess the risk. Maybe we have to go for a punt. We need to get back into the top 10k. Then I can maybe punt more. But right now I think the teams are in good form and the players that have doubles aren't that attractive. Yes, Newcastle, I've brought in 2 of their options, but United, a little bit hit or miss this season. I do think they're the best captaincy options to go for though. And then you got Leicester. I mean, Leicester are going to have rotation there. Madison, Barnes, are they going to start both? Will they not? I think it's worth doing a free hit for my own team. But if you guys do have 2 left, I would 100% go for it. And if you are on a free hit, you could maximize the risk there and actually have a relatively good game week. All you have to worry about is United beating Norwich quite convincingly, and that could actually happen. So a lot of up in the air, and it's a 1 week kind of stint, so not too much to worry about there in terms of the free hit, but I've chosen not to use it and use it a little bit later on this season. Okay, so let me talk about my transfer plans next week then, because we do have this speculation of these upcoming FA Cup results. So in terms of Man City, Liverpool, the only thing that matters there is that if Man City do beat Liverpool, they have to double in 36. They can't double in 37. But in terms of that impact there, not too much to worry about there in terms of the short term. But the one that you have to worry about is Chelsea vs Crystal Palace coming up tomorrow on Sunday evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you guys are around the world. But if Chelsea do win, they double in 34. But if Chelsea do lose and Crystal Palace win, Crystal Palace and Aston Villa double in 35. So let's just say Chelsea win. I think for the sake of Chelsea, that's probably the more reliable option to go for. So I'm just going to go over here. F4.team have plugged us with Chelsea winning in the cup. So I'm going to select that option there. Then if we go to next week, my current plan to do is I was going to take out Rafinha. So let's take out Rafinha there. It has the Crystal Palace fixture, but I mean, it is what it is. I can bring in Mason Mount if I want to. And then I was going to take out one of Saiss or Digne. I mean, if Digne doesn't double, I'll probably take him out if he is still injured. And therefore, I have a lot of money in the bank there, 5.5, and I can afford Alonso. So that was my current thinking behind these moves, and that's why I've gone for them. So I still have 0.1 in the bank to adjust for price rises. And if Chelsea do win against Crystal Palace tomorrow, then I can always go for these 2 assets. Depending on the starting 11 is another debate. I'll bench some options and we start some people, but worry about that next week. But yes, these will be for a -4, or I could just do the Alonso move because I don't have enough money in the bank, or I could just do a Reece James move if I don't want to bring in Mason Mount. So that's kind of my thinking behind these moves. So it has kind of set me up quite nicely for next week. And this week, we still bring in some double game week players that could potentially score. So that's my rundown, guys. I'm pretty sure there's going to be people coming in the chat later and asking me what moves I'm going to do in the next 2 weeks. But that is what it is. If you guys were here, you managed to catch up. And this is how the current team is setting up. So now we can get into some questions. I'm going to go back and just see if any members... So Darth said, how's it? And then he also dropped a question here. He said, hey, Davey, Kulusevski/Madison in for Rafinha for a -4 or play James? My bench doesn't have a game this week. I would play James and just hope that he starts. I don't think the Madison to Rafinha move might be a -4. If you're going to captain Madison, I would probably do that. I just have some worry about those Leicester options. Look, Siddharth, if you want to take a punt, this is the kind of game to go for. I would go for Madison over Kulusevski. And if you want to captain him, -4 is fine. But if you do want to kind of take a punt, I'd also do it. But James is also perfectly fine to just play, to be honest. I mean, as I said, I don't expect Arsenal to do too much against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. So, I mean, that if he starts, it's probably a clean sheet, maybe 1 or 2 attacking returns. Igor is saying, who do you think is a better duo on Friet? Son plus Ronaldo or Bruno plus Kane? I think I would go Bruno plus Kane, to be honest. So Igor, my latest draft, I think I went for Bruno and Kane, but also went with Ronaldo. So maybe that's where the confusion's coming in. But I do prefer Bruno and Kane. I just prefer Kane to Son this week. If you have to go for a 1-week punt on a Spurs asset, Kane is better than Son in my opinion. But I mean, Son could still outscore him as we've seen in the prior game weeks. But I just think the safety options on Kane and on Friet. How much in the bank? I've got 2.0 million in the bank after these moves. So finally, we have some money in the bank again. 0.0 for the past couple of weeks, but now we're back in the cash. AJ saying 2 Friets left, 50 or top of my league, use a chip. Yeah, if you have 2 Friets left, you almost have to use one in game week 33 because remember, guys, you can't use them in consecutive game weeks. So even if you have 2 Friets, you can't use them in 36, 37. So if you do have 2 Friets left, I would use it 33, then wait for 36 or 37, and you guys can decide when to use it there. So that's what I would do. But yeah, please, if you guys do have 2 Friets, I would use one this week. I think it's a good week to kind of Friet if you do have 2. What should we do with Reece James? Still start him? So Vincent, in terms of my prediction, and please, I'm not a Chelsea fan here, so I might be a little bit ignorant to this fact, but I do think that James starts against Crystal Palace, and then I think there's a risk of him being benched against Arsenal. But what could happen is he could be benched against Palace and then started against Arsenal. But I think the Crystal Palace game is slightly more of an importance to Chelsea at the moment. I think against Arsenal, with all the injuries they've had and the form they've had, they might get away with starting Aspi at right back. But I think currently I would start him and just hope for the best. I mean, if you guys don't have an option on your bench, then, I mean, just play him. I think I would play him anyways, because if he doesn't start, he could just be rested entirely. No worries, AJ, thanks for the question. Are you giving a free demo for any changes, Davey? I'll make a free draft in when we hit the half an hour mark. So half an hour before the deadline, I'll make a free draft for you guys. Maybe post some updates there, potential moves that I think might be better currently on the news that we've got yesterday. But I think it might be generally quite similar to the draft I created 2 days ago. You guys can go check that video out if you haven't. Lucy saying start Weghorst or take a -4 for Barnes. I would just start Weghorst, to be honest. I worry about the Leicester options, but as I've said, if you guys want to captain any player you bring in for game week 33, a -4 is almost negligible because they have a double, then you're going to captain them. So that's why I can understand the Bruno and the Ronaldo moves, but for my own team, it required too much surgery, and that's why I've just stuck with Salah and Son. So hopefully those 2 assets bang. I mean, if those 2 bang, I'll be quite happy at the end of the day. A Kilman replacement, only have a starting 10. So Andy, how much money do you have in the bank, brother? Because that's going to detail quite a bit of the replacement. So just drop, Andy, just drop your price in the comments and I'll give you a selection. Preferably probably a Newcastle asset, but if you can't afford one of those, you might have to do some diving. Teles or Cancelo for this week only. I like Cancelo. Cancelo's been on every one of my drafts. I guess the thing that you have to think about is that if he will start. If he doesn't start, obviously that's going to be a bad decision, and then Teles might be better, but I don't know. I just think that Cancelo could haul this week, and that's why I've gone for him, but I guess you just have to hope that he starts. Maybe if Kyle Walker's out, it might be slightly better for him to start, but I don't know. He could always start Ake and Zinchenko or something like that. Mohammed, would you captain Bruno? Yes. Bruno and Ronaldo are, it's like a 50-50 between those two in terms of the best option this week. But if you have a United asset, captain them, as I think they are the best assets this week. Look, against Liverpool, I mean, that's almost a single gaming people have been saying, but they could always score against Liverpool. But I think that Norwich game is the game that you should focus on. If they blank against Norwich, it's going to be a bad weekend. But if they bang, I mean, that's going to be perfectly fine for you. So I would still captain United assets. I think out of the doubles, they're the best options to go for. Captain Son, I was thinking about it, but to be honest, it's the early fixture of the week. That's probably the only reason I'm not doing it. I just don't want to captain Son any blanks. Then the rest of my long weekend is going to be quite bad. I mean, that it's more of an emotional thing, I guess. Are you 100% captaining Wood? I think like 70% right now. But yet again, what's going to change between now and the deadline? It's not going to... Maybe there's some reasoning that you guys have to not captain Wood. But my current thinking is that I want an option that potentially can score in both. And I just feel with Saka, you banking on the Southampton game and not the Chelsea one. And that's what I'm kind of contemplating with my own team currently. 2.9 in the bank, but looking at bringing in have Shaw, then go for Cancelo. And if I think you have I think you could afford Cancelo there, but yeah, maybe go for him. Harsh, Man City assets. Who should we be bringing in? So with Man City assets, it's a bit tough because of the Chelsea assets next week. If Chelsea double next week, their assets obviously have priority. I would like to bring in Man City assets like a Foden, but I think right now I'm going to have to stick with Cancelo and just hope that he's enough coverage. I just think with these upcoming game weeks, there might be some rotation then. Other Man City are still in the Champions League. And with injuries coming up to some options, there might be less rotation, but I'm still expecting quite a bit. Lewis is saying Sarah for Bruno for -4. Definitely would not transfer out Sarah. She has been banging in the goals this week, but probably meant Salah there, Lewis. I don't know. I'm against it just because I don't necessarily want an asset next week. I might captain Salah next week, and that's why I'm keeping him. I'm not doing it personally because I'm playing a little bit conservative now that I'm in the top 10k. But if you guys want to take a punt, I would suggest that. I've suggested to people, if you want to catch up in your mini leagues, want to catch up in the overall ranks, I would bring in a Man United asset. And I think for either Salah or Son, you can go for it. But I currently am going a bit weird. Liam is saying, hi Davey, here with the GF again. So hopefully not ruining the Saturday by watching my stream. If she wants to go do something else, go do something else. I'm pretty sure that'll be more enjoyable than the stream. But thanks for joining, Liam and girlfriend. Depashu saying, what website is he using? I'm using fpl.team. Simply type that in your search bar, fpl.team, and that'll take you to the website. They've been doing some great dev work. If you scroll right to the bottom of the page, you can see that they've included a Chelsea or Crystal Palace double next week, which is quite a nice feature there if you guys want to plan. But as I've mentioned, you can't prepare for that fixture. Please don't bring in a Chelsea asset unless you're really sure they're going to win. Because the worst thing you want is to bring in a Mason Mount to a Alonso or James, and then they don't have a double next week and you're sitting a little bit weird. That's all that I'll say. Captain Wood or Maddison. I don't know about Maddison. I think he starts one, but if that's enough for you, then that's fine. So that's what I would say. If you find with Maddison starting one game and still captaining him, then go for it. But that's why I'm going for Chris Wood, because I think he starts both. Fingers crossed, touch wood, that he starts both. And I mean, I can see him potentially maybe doing well against both the teams, and that's why I think I'm leaning slightly towards him. Okay, Liam, glad to hear. That's good. Hopefully she's beating you in FPL as well. Azad saying, like the stream, you can if you want to. Alex is shouting. He says, I got Kane, Breuer, and Vachos. Should I bring in Wood? And no, I would keep those three assets. That's fine to go for, Alex. The only reason I've done it is I had Lacazette. You either have Lacazette or you have Kane. It's like Son versus Kane there. So I would keep that front three, to be honest. Frederick saying, who's your captain? You can see it on screen there. It's Chris Wood currently. Transfer Lacazette out. I think I would transfer Lacazette out. Unless by some miracle, an Easter miracle, that he starts against Southampton today, I think that I would take him out. I wanted to downgrade him next week anyway because Arsenal's fixtures get slightly worse. So that's why I would do it. I think it's a perfectly fine move. You can free up some funds. You can do some upgrades next week. Joshua with the donation saying, how do you have Robbo, White, and Reece instead of Cancelo, Saïs? Otherwise, same team. Who do I bench and potential transfers next week? Start... that's actually quite tough. Definitely start White. He's the no-brainer. So start White instead of Cancelo. And then you have Robbo and Reece on your bench. That's a tough one. I'll start Robertson over Reece James. But your team must be stacked then. Yeah, so I definitely would start White. I would start Robbo over James. And if that means benching Reece James, that's fine. But yeah, that's a bit of a tough one. I might even... Yeah, I think you have to go with that. I mean, you could bench Kulusevski, but I mean, from an attacking point of view, I would like to play the attacker more. But I would bench probably Reece James out of those options. But if he starts, you're gonna be sitting behind the couch, unfortunately. Would you make Bruno captain or would Karen 100% Bruno? Already have Cancelo with future. I have 0.8 to upgrade. Okay, then that's a tough one. I might just double up on the Newcastle assets then, Andy. Just go for Target if you can afford him. I think just take a punt, maybe go for that. The defenders are pretty bad for the upcoming game weeks. I would say maybe an Aston Villa player, but we don't even know if they're going to double 35. Captain Kane or Shaw? Vincent, I would go Kane. I'm fine with captaining Kane or Son this week. I just want to put that out there. They were probably my third favorite options. I think Wood is my current favorite, Saka's my second, and then Son's my third. Salah's my fourth just because they do face Man City tonight or this afternoon. So you don't really know what's going to happen in that game. I mean, if Salah scores, then he's going to be in good form and then he'll be fine for United. But if there is maybe some rotation there, I'm worried about that. So I think Son's my current third favorite. I'm leaning towards a double game week. As every probably FPL manager does, I'm swayed by the double game weeks. How's it, Jason? Thanks for dropping by. Cancelo and Sancho or White and Fernandes? This question is simply answered by who you want to captain. If you're going to captain Fernandes, go for him. But if you're not, then Cancelo and Sancho might have a high ceiling. But if it's on a free hit, I would go White and Fernandes. So there's quite a lot of scenarios there for you, Sif. Subtuck saying, thanks here from India, play Forster or Ramsdale. So currently I'm playing Ramsdale, so that's what I would go for. Is Ronaldo starting? I think he definitely will play. There's been some rumors of a potential benching against Liverpool, but I don't see it. I think he plays both games, to be honest. Would you take a hit to bring in Maddison/Barnes this week? It makes it easier if you're going to captain them. But look, if you don't have a starting 11, that's even easier because it's a -2. Theoretically, a -0 if you're taking out a blank player. But I would be cautious. I mean, if they start both, 100%, if Barnes or Maddison, it was confirmed they're going to play both games, I think they're great assets to go for. Even probably one of the best captaincy options to go for. But I just worry about some rotation there. And what people have been saying is I think Maddison starts one, and I think Barnes or Lookman starts both. So it's either one of those two, either Lookman or Barnes, that will play both. Sean saying Son, Cornet out for Bruno Maddison -4. If you're going to captain Bruno, then yes. For me, this week comes down to captaincy. I'm not going to captain one of those other assets. I don't think it's worth it, especially with the hit. So that's why I'm keeping Son and Salah. But I'm very conservative this week. If you guys are Maverick, then go for it. Start White or Broja. That's a tough one to go for. I want to say Broja from an attacking point of view, but I do worry about his place. If he starts both, I definitely would go for the attacker. So I think we edge it to Broja, but just slightly. I think that's probably what I would go for. It's a bit of a contradiction there because it's like Broja versus White. So do you think White's going to keep a clean sheet or do you think Broja's going to score? So I can understand your kind of a worry there. The Beautiful Game saying, is this your final team? Currently it is. I can't see it changing too much. I don't think I'm going to bring in Bruno for Salah or Son. I don't think it's worth it. So that's why I'm staying where it is and I'm captaining Wood. I mean, that's going to be a Maverick player or it's going to be an absolute disaster. Who kind of knows? Thinking of using your max predicted points free hit squad, good move. It is if you want to kind of get the biggest good, I would say kind of biggest gain points. I think that's what I would say there. If you want to go the most Maverick squad you can get, I would go for the predicted point squad. But if you're still happy with your rank, want to play a bit more conservative, then maybe go with my latest draft. But I can understand why you're drawn to that because, as I've said, it's the best predicted point scorers, but the predicted algorithm isn't always right. Alexander saying, would you start Broja or Kulusevski? I'd go for Broja because of the double. Imagine all your front three score. If all my front three score, I'll go absolutely mental. It'll be an Easter miracle, Gary, because Vaghorst is trash. Breuer might not even play both, and Wood, that's a Newcastle attacker. So they're not the most free scoring side, but as I said, I'll be over the moon if all three of them do score. Freer team says yes, so it's right on time there. Half past, we're going to go over a Freer draft, and we can go over it together and we can build the best squad possible. Nicola saying start Rudiger or Davies. I think Spurs have a higher chance of a clean sheet. And I think if you have an Arsenal attacker, I would rather start Davies or Davies and just hope that Arsenal score. That's what I would do, Nicola. But if you don't have an Arsenal attacker, you could always just play Rudiger. But I think the chance of a clean sheet might be slightly higher from Davies' point of view. Yes, Rudiger has a more attacking threat, but I think I might favor Spurs slightly there. But let's go on to create a Freer draft. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm just going to load up a fresh FPL team. So if you guys, let me just see if you guys can see that still. Yeah, so it still looks good. And then I'll put chat on the right hand side, so I'm not missing anything there if you guys say something. Let's answer Will's question quickly. Breuer out for Wood or Raf for Madison? I'd rather do Rafinha for Madison. Will. Okay, so let's do a free hit team. So let's start off with the bench because those players are pretty bad. I'm going to go with McGovern. I'm going to go with Tsimikas. Who's another cheap defender? Let's say a Marty. And then I think currently I currently favor the 3-5-2 formation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Breuer to Greenwood. Actually, no, Dobbin. Dobbin was super cheap. He was 4.5. So let's start off with the goalkeeper. I think this is a general consensus, guys. Schmeichel for me. I think he's 100%. In terms of the rest of the defense, I like Cancelo, but you guys might disagree with me. I think Alex Telles is worth a punt against Norwich, but he could be one that you might rotate. Actually, let's start off building the draft without him and just see how we kind of go. I think Shaw's nailed, and I think if you don't go for Telles, I might go for a double up in the Newcastle defense and just hope that they kind of get one. Now we go into the hard bit. I'm going to take out Rafinha first for Barnes. I think I favor Barnes to Madison slightly just because of the expected minutes. Saka stays, Kulusevski's out. I probably would take Salah out. This is what I was talking about with Jota versus Salah. You guys can decide what you do with that move. If you want to go more conservative, go Jota, because I think he covers Salah slightly, whereas you could go completely Maverick. So let's start off with a Maverick draft here, and we can kind of move from there. So let's go over, let's play Sancho, just because I don't have Telles. If you're not going to put Telles in, I would triple up on United, and that's why I would go for three of their assets, whether that be defender, 2 attackers, or 3 kind of attackers. We're then going to go Fernandes, and I think now is where we kind of might sway an opinion. So I'm going to go for Kane, and I'll take Son out later, and I think you guys have to go with Ronaldo as well. This draft might actually be very expensive, I've just noticed. But we can take 4 million out, and then we have 6.9 in the bank. And I mean, theoretically, what you could do is you could go for like a Ward-Prowse. You could go for a Maddison if you wanted to. I think Maddison actually might be just too expensive. So I just missed out by 0.1 million, but you could downgrade another department. Actually, you could go Marty out. So let's go here with Maddison first, and then let me just downgrade a Marty to a cheaper alternative. I don't know. Surely there's a 3.9 defender. Yeah. So let's go for any one of these. Let's go for Bardsley from Burnley. So currently, this I can afford with 0.0 in the bank. So not a lot of money to spend, but this is the more maverick draft that I think you guys should go for. In terms of captain, I'd stick it on Bruno. I'd probably vice captain Ronaldo just for bants, but you could always go for another fixture just for security reasons. But I think this is probably the fiat that I would go for if I want to go a bit maverick. But if you guys do want to protect Salah, you can always go for Jota, but then you might have to downgrade another department. But let's stick on this draft for now, because I think most people want to kind of go a little bit maverick on fiat, and this would be the fiat draft that I do go for. So what do you guys think about this? Do you think it's too maverick? Do you think it's too much Leicester, or what do you think? So Igor saying, can you do a Fred with Salah in? I'll do a Fred with Salah in just to spice things up a bit. Hi David, you free? I'm not free. I'm using 2 free transfers. I did that last night. Wood in for Lacazette and Saar in for Doherty, and I'm currently captaining Chris Wood. Will saying, cheers bro, any thoughts on benching Headache? Would you start James over Trent? I've Cancelo, Marty, Shaw, James. I don't think I'd start James over Trent. I think I'd just play Trent, to be honest. Will? Philippe saying, bench 2 of Salah, Trent, Kulusevski, Son, Breuer, White. Bench Kulusevski and bench White. But that's a tough one. But actually, yeah, I don't know. Salah and Trent. Trent's probably the one that you might want to bench there. I think I still might bench White and Breuer. And Abdul with the 5 donation with no questions. So Abdul, just post your comment in chat and I'll try to get to it. But Philippe, yeah, that's a tough one to go by. What do the projected points say on that? I'd be interested to see. Go over to FPL Review, Fantasy Football Fix, and just go search those options and see what comes up. I'd be interested to see what it tells you to bench, and I might agree with them on that. This might be one of those things where it's a bit rough. United will get slapped by Liverpool, hopefully. I mean, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I would appreciate that, and as a Trent and Salah owner, but you never kind of know with them. Suggest me captain for Maddison or Wood. I'm currently on Wood over Maddison just because I think he starts both, and I mean, that's fine. So Samit saying United is looking risky with their form. I do agree with you, but what I think is that if you're on a free hit, you have to go for it. I mean, that Norwich fixture's plum, guys. I mean, they could quite easily score a few, and that could be quite rough. Upgrade Ramsey instead of Kilman, 5.9 in the bank. Cornet, you could go Cornet. That could actually be a nice alternative, Andy. I think I would rather go with Cornet or one of the midfielders over maybe one of the defenders. I think they got a high ceiling this week. Okay, so take a screenshot of this if you guys want it. You might not. You might think this draft is terrible. But let's go on and do a Salah draft as requested. So in terms of Salah, you need a significant downgrade here. That's either going to be Kane or Ronaldo. What I would probably do is I would take out Kane. Then I would shift back to Son. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just go back to fpl.team. And I'm going to reset because sometimes it gets a little bit weird on the budget. So let's go over again, just quickly put in the bench here. McGovern, Tsimikas. Who was the other player we had? Was it Bardsley? Yeah, we had Bardsley, and then we have, sorry, my mic's in the way. And then we have Dobbin. Okay, so cheapest bench as possible. I would keep Son and Salah, you say. I would take out Ramsdale. We're going to go for pretty much the exact same backline here. What you might have to do is might bring in Telles rather than Sancho to save some budget. But let's start off with Target and then we can always just migrate. I think Barnes again is a no-brainer if you want a Leicester option. Lacazette out, and we're going to put in Chris Wood this time just because we need that value from Kane. And then I still would have Ronaldo. So you guys understand what I'm saying about the Son versus Kane debate. If you need value, go Son because he's cheaper. And those points might be quite similar between them, but you are saving some value there. And now, how much do you have in the bank? We've got 2.9 in the bank, so what you can do is you can hopefully still go with Bruno, but you need 2.4 now. So this is where we get a little bit weird. So we need to kind of afford another option. So obvious downgrade would be Son out, but I still think if you want some Son coverage, another department you could maybe go as a Breuer instead of a Wood and then maybe downgrade another department. But I think currently the easiest downgrade here to do is taking out Son. And you then have 8.5 in the bank. You just slightly off going for a Sancho. So I would therefore go with Sancho over maybe someone else. And then I would downgrade Target. And you have 4.3. So can you afford Kraft? So you can afford Kraft for 4.3, but he's a little bit weird. But I'd say this is what I would push for if I was to keep Salah. You don't have any Spurs coverage, but I think you have to choose between Spurs and Salah in this case. An easier downgrade is to downgrade Salah to Jota for some coverage, and then you can always just keep Son and upgrade some other places. But this is probably what I would maybe look at going for. Another significant downgrade you could do is take out Cancelo and bring in an Alex Telles. And then you might want to look at another alternative there. So this isn't one option that you guys can look at, but let's maybe say instead of going for Cancelo, you go for Telles. Obviously now you've got more options from United, so let's take them out and let's go for Son. And then you might have 0.1 to downgrade, and then you can maybe look at another department. Maybe not go for a Telles, maybe go for another alternative, but he's might be slightly more expensive. But I would almost go for this then. But I think it's tough to free it with Salah this week, and that's why I've gone for kind of not going for him. I don't know if you guys can see any alternatives that you would make on this, but yeah. Deloitte, now that Wan-Bissaka is out of the squad, apparently what people are saying is that he might be benched for one game. That's what I saw some predicted lineups being. Will saying, in your opinion, who are the best captaincy options, Ronaldo or Bruno Fernandes? Schmeichel, Tierney for Saar in... Okay, Schmeichel, Tierney for Saar. Okay, your question's a bit weird here. Schmeichel, Tierney for Saar and Tierney or Madison for Saar and Rafinha. Okay, so I think you've missed out. You've put Tierney twice here. So just repeat the question, Abhilash, and just correct it, because you've got Tierney twice here. It's a bit rough for me to answer. But yeah. Play Lacazette or Weghorst for -4 or another. So Lacazette, holy butter, I wouldn't play. I would bench Lacazette if you have him, just because I think he'll play this week. Do you have any chips left? Twisted, I've got one free left. That's all I have left. It's a little bit of a sad scenario, but it is what it is, and hopefully we can move with it. What about Martinelli with Lacazette out? So actually, that's something that you could do. What you could do here is instead of Saka, you could go Martinelli. And that should give you a little bit of value, 1.2 in the bank. I don't think it's enough to go for Cancelo. Cancelo 7.1. So then you have 1.2 in the bank to spend here. So then I would go take out Kraft and I'd go Target. So that could be a move you guys go for if you want to save some value. So it's probably what I would look at if you want to include Salah, but I much prefer the other draft that I did earlier on. I think on a free hit, you guys should take some punts. Who are you benching? I'm benching all three of my blank players. So if you guys want to see my team, it's this team. This is my team here. People just asked me to create a free hit draft, so that's what I did. Okay, Schmeichel Target for Saar and Tierney, or Schmeichel Madison for Saar and Rafinha. Are you going to captain Madison, Abhilash? Then maybe the Madison move. But I do like the Schmeichel Target move. As long as you can bench Rafinha. But obviously if you're going to take Rafinha out, you probably have him on your bench already. So who are you playing currently? Kachis was saying, Big Davey, Kane captain. I'm fine with the Kane captain, to be honest, if there's no one else in your team. But if you have a Bruno and a Ronaldo in your team, then I wouldn't captain Kane, if you get what I'm saying. I would still go with those double game week options. But if you like me and you don't have many good options to go for, then Kane's perfectly fine. Augustine saying Salah versus Madison versus Kane versus Saka for captain. I don't think I'd go Madison just because of the threat. I think I would go Kane or Saka. That's what I would opt for. It's tight between those two. If you like the double game week player, I'd maybe go for Saka. But Kane's also perfectly fine. I think I would edge Saka slightly more than Kane, just for like a punt point of view in the double game week. But I think both of those two assets should hopefully do well for you. It just depends on who scores the most. But Kane's definitely safe in my opinion. My forwards this week, Iheanacho, Breuer, Weghorst. I want to get Wood, but for whom? Obviously, Iheanacho you have to keep because you might start both. I would probably skip Wood for this week, to be honest. But if you want to take out one of those, I would probably take out Weghorst because he's not very good. And who knows, maybe Ben Mee comes in with an iron fist and benches good old Weghorst because he thinks he's bad. That could honestly happen. That's what I don't like. I don't think it's a certainty now that Sean Dyche has been sacked that Weghorst is going to start both. So I do worry about him. Keep Adams or go for Wood. 100% keep Adams. Between Adams and Wood, it was very close for me. The only reason I went for Wood was because I already owned Breuer and I wasn't too keen of a Southampton double up. I already had a Southampton double up and they did nothing for me. If Target plays, then DCL plays. If Madison plays, then Connor Roberts. So I can understand what you're saying. Everton play... Who do Everton play this week? Everton play Leicester this week. That's not the worst in the world. The thing about Roberts, though, is if he starts both, you might be looking at some points. So yeah. Connor Roberts is an interesting one. It's almost safety versus punt, Abhilash. Target's the safe option because I think he'll start both, but Madison's the punt because he might have a slightly higher ceiling. In your case, I might go for Target if you want to go safe. I think I'm almost in a conservative move this week. Someone's saying, will Madison start both games, my captain? So the consensus on Twitter is that he'll play one and he'll come off for the second one. But he could always play both. Who kind of knows with these options? In terms of captaincy, it's a risk in my opinion to captain him, but sometimes risks have high rewards. So that's what you have to decide for yourself. I don't have Wood. Who would you go? Saka or Madison captain? Or go Maverick and captain Son? So Son is a safe option, well, for me. I think I'd slightly lean the Saka captain, but I think Madison's also perfectly fine. I just think that Saka, Son, Madison for me. But if Madison starts both, then you're going to be crying if you don't captain him. That's all I'll say. Is it too risky leaving Liverpool players out on a free hit? It is risky because of the effective ownership that they might have. The thing about it, though, is if you want to punt on a Maverick move, then I would exclude Liverpool assets. It's the same with the Spurs assets. They have a single game week. Yes, they could bang, but chances are your double game week players will probably outperform them with 2 fixtures. It just depends how much you're in the mood for a punt. Like if you're sitting at 3 million and you want to improve your rank, then go for it. But if you're sitting at like first in your mini league and you want to be a little bit conservative, then maybe include 1 or 2 of them. The same starting 11 as you. Would you start Dubravka, Marty, or Robbo over any of them? So the exact same starting 11. Let me get this right. So you have Shaw and you have Wood. Then I think I would play Dubravka over Ramsdale. And I'd play... I don't think I'd play a Marty. I don't know if he'll start both. And I think that I might just go for... Put Robbo on the bench and just hope that they don't score. I think I would bench Kulusevski probably out of these options. Liam saying, how did David, would you start Livramento, Breuer, or Weghorst? I think you have to go for the attacker there, and I'd go with Breuer. But if that's your bench, Liam, you're probably in some good territory because you probably will have some points on your bench. But I mean, it's a literal throw up between those three. I think. I play Breuer, Kulusevski, Gary. I'd go Breuer. I think you have to go with the double game week player. Emmanuel though is saying Weghorst to Kulusevski. I think you just have to roll the dice and hopefully Burnley go on a Maverick Barcelona mode and have a hectic new manager bounce. But I mean, you probably go with the double game week options. Would you take Barnes out? I would not take Barnes out. If you're on a free hit, maybe, but I wouldn't take him out on a free transfer. Just play Barnes. He's my favorite Leicester option, to be honest. Would you start Rudiger or James? James. If James does not start, I don't know if he'll come off. So I would roll the dice and then maybe just have Rudiger come on. Walker Peters as bench cover on a free hit. Yes. So if you guys, this is what I would do. Make your starting 11. And then if you have money left over, upgrade your bench because you don't really matter. It doesn't really matter about that bank. So upgrade your bench because if that has to come on, you want some points. So 100%. Thanks for that reminder. It's a point that I think is quite important. If you have money left over after your starting 11, upgrade your bench. United was struggling against Norwich in the last reverse fixture, but the thing about United is it's so hit or miss. Like one game, they'll do well against a good team. Then next week, they'll lose against Everton. It's so up in the air with them. But I do feel like if you guys are on a free hit or you want to get the best option for captaincy, you guys have to go with the Norwich fixture. If Salah was playing Norwich, you would have gone for them. It's just kind of the form of United that's putting people off. And I think I would roll the dice on them and just hope that they pitch up. It is at Old Trafford and there has been some protests. I think there might be a reaction from the United assets. But as you've said, you have concerns about them. Exact same with me. That's I'm not ripping my team up to get them in. But yes, they could bang, but they could also not do well. Who kind of knows? Are we getting Alonso in next week, Gary? That's the current plan. So my current plan is either to bring in Mount and Alonso, or if I'm worried about Mount's minutes, I might just go with James. It just depends. But I do like Alonso. I think he'll start the majority of games for the rest of the season, especially if they play that back five. If they play a back four, Alonso's not the best. I think he'll be benched then. But if they play a back five, 100%. Yash became a legend. So if this is, I don't think this is a new membership. Is it a new membership, Yash? If it is, thank you. But otherwise, welcome back to the Legend Club. Have Kane in my free draft. Is it even worth it? I think that the form that Spurs are in, and if you want to go a little bit more conservative, I would include at least one Spurs asset. That's what I would say. Look, if they do well, they do well. But at the end of the day, if they don't, I mean, you should have a good enough free draft without spending that money elsewhere to be fine with him blanking. But let's just say I think that Spurs score against Brighton. And if they do score, it's probably Son or Kane, to be honest. Lacazette to start. Clyde, so he was not in training yesterday. Did not even arrive at the training ground. And because Arteta said it's for personal reasons, I think that he has tested positive. And therefore, I'm not too confident of him starting the Southampton game. If he hasn't trained yesterday and the game is today, probably won't start. And that's why, for me, it's worth taking him out because I don't want him for that Chelsea game in a double game week. Iheanacho for Weghorst. It's the same with Iheanacho and Daka and any Leicester options. If they start both, great options. If they start one, it's a bit meh to use a transfer on. Especially if Weghorst starts both. That's a little bit interesting. Yash saying, hey Davey, should I go for TAA and remove Doherty? Although I'll have to remove either Kane or Son. Worth it. I wouldn't remove Kane or Son this week for Trent. It's the United fixture. United could easily score. So I would go elsewhere. That could be taking out Doherty for a Shaw or maybe a Burn, maybe even a Target. But I wouldn't bring a Trent in this week if you have to take out Son or Kane. Would you start Trent over Amartey? I think I would, well, slightly. But that's me being a Liverpool fan. I just don't know. It's just a little bit... it's a little bit worrying about Amartey's minutes. If you think he starts both, then go for it. Jota, Liverpool asset or get Son? I prefer Son to Jota this week. Play all your blank game week players for vibes with 2 billion emojis there. But I'm going to be going for the clean approach here. If I wanted to be a dirty FPL manager, I would captain one of my blank players and vice captain Wood. That would be a maverick. Bruno, Captain Davey, he's my favorite option this week. And if -4 is all it takes, that's fine to do. As long as you're going to captain Bruno. If you're not going to captain him, then I don't think it's worth a -4. But obviously it also depends, Rafa and Reza, who you take out. Because if you're taking out a Salah or Son, then you have to weigh it up about that kind of move. Kulusevski to Mane for a -4, not this week in my opinion. I think there's too much speculation about the FA Cup game. And might not even start there. Whereas Kulusevski's nailed to play. I don't think we've got early team news. 8 minutes to go. But currently that's what I'm thinking. I will check Twitter though for you guys shortly. Vernon saying, come on, I can't decide. What was your question? I forgot it again, Vernon. In Tato saying, morning Davey, thoughts on taking Rafinha out for Barnes for -4? Yeah, so do that move then. That's 100% fine. -4, theoretically, if Barnes starts both, it's a free transfer because your blank game week player has 0 and Barnes from appearance points should score 4. So it's a free transfer in my eyes. So that's why I would go for it. Take out Coutinho, bro, for Bruno. Yeah, I think that move is fine. You just have to hope that Chelsea beat Crystal Palace. Because if Coutinho has a double in 35, you're going to be a little bit worried. But I would do that. Coutinho this week with a blank, that's almost not even worth a -4 now, Rafa. Because it's a captain and a blank game week player you're taking out. You almost should get gains from that move. David continues saying, would you do Salah for Bruno 1 week or Kane to Bruno wildcard and free it available? Yeah, so if you're going to wildcard next week, David, I would probably do the Salah move. I just don't like Salah because if you want to captain him next week, you have to use another free transfer. But in your case, you're going to wildcard next week probably. Then you can bring Salah straight back in. So I would probably do that move for this week, David. Thanks for the context there about your move. Which two should I bench? Lacazette, 100% bench Lacazette. Bench Lacazette, and you could bench Laporte if you think he's going to get rotated. But otherwise I might just bench Lacazette and Kula, and then just hope that Reece James starts, and then have Kulusevski first on your bench. James for Shaw. I wouldn't take out James this week. I'd keep James. United vs Liverpool score prediction. I think Liverpool will win 2-0. That's what I think. I think it's at Anfield. I think United will be up for it, but I just think that Liverpool will edge it a 2-0, so it might be a 1-0, 2-0, but I think that Liverpool are playing well at the moment, not the best I think, but I think they should still get the result, and that's why I think it will be a 2-0. No worries, David, thanks for as I said, the question. Holy Butter saying Vachos scores a Hattie. Guys, captain him quick. Holy Butter, if you captain him, good luck to you, but I don't think I will. Saka not a big game player, so won't recommend vice captaining him. So I just have it on him because I want to, but I could always go for Son if you think that might be a bit more reliable. Mohan became a supporter. Thank you for becoming a supporter. I don't think you were a supporter. I think you were just a normal viewer. So thank you for joining the supporter club. Jason saying Liverpool play best when you wear that jersey. So they play. That's why I wore it today, because hopefully we beat Man City. But I will wear it again on, I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday. I will wear it again and hopefully we get the dub. Is Wood your actual captain or just for the screen? So G-Ball, it is my actual captain. I know you're probably a bit worried there, but I am going for him actually. So yeah, I might be going a bit mental, but I think this week it's worth a punt, and that's why I've gone for it. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to check Twitter just to see if we do get any team news. Nothing so far. Let's see. Yeah, so there's been no kind of news about anything hectic. So we're going for a Chris Wood captain, and we're just hoping that it pays off. But yeah, I don't know if it will. It's a bit shaky. But definitely it would be differential, to be honest. Yeah, so I don't see anything, guys, here on team news. So we're going for it, and that's going to be the team. So this is the team that you see on screen that's locked in. Thank you, Marco, for saying good luck. Have a nice weekend. Hopefully you have a nice weekend too. Yeah, so I see nothing on Twitter, guys, so we're going to be going for good old Chris Wood, the Kiwi, representing the Southern Hemisphere. We have to go for it. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully there's not too much variance in there. And hopefully it's going to be a good game week for us. 3 minutes left, guys. So what I'll do is we'll go back to the OG deadline streams. And we'll do a little bit of a quick fire session. So get your questions in. And I'll answer them in a quick fire state. Thank you, Mom, for the kind words there. And as I said, thank you for becoming a supporter. I do appreciate it. But get the questions in. And then I'll be doing a quick fire with 2 minutes left. We're going to start off now. So, Iheanacho expected to play both games. I don't think so, Sebastian. I think Daka plays one. Son or Madison, captain, your thoughts? I'd go for Son for safety, Madison for a punt. Do you think Arsenal will finish top 4 this season? It's going to be tight. I hope they do if I do have a lot of Arsenal assets. Adams, Martinelli or Dewsbury Hall start. I'd start Adams, Cornet plus Ronaldo, or actually no, I'd start Martinelli in your case. Son plus Ronaldo or Son plus Adams. Son plus Adams, as long as you're not going to captain Ronaldo. If you want to captain Ronaldo, go for him. Son or Saka or Salah for captain. Saka maybe edges it. Son, my second favorite, and Salah, my third. Captain Salah, Madison or Kane. Kane captain for me, Madison second, Salah third. Start Robbo or Kulusevski. I'd go for the attacker Kulusevski. Triple up Sancho, Bruno, Ronaldo, Fred. That's what I would do. Madison or Vaghorst, I'd go with Madison. Vaghorst is terrible. Amati starts both games. I don't think so. Barnes points. Let's say a goal, and I'd say maybe it ends on 10 points. Let's say that. Ronaldo versus Fernandes for captain. I would go Fernandes captain just because of the extra point from a midfielder for goal. Bench Bro, Robertson. Bench Robertson. Salah, Kane, or Madison. I already think I've answered that question. Bruno or Wood captain. Igor go for Bruno captain. No Friat this week. No Friat. Top 100k. Leave out Liverpool. Okay, I don't know exactly what you're saying there at the whiskey. James Ward-Prowse or Saka captain. I would go Saka slightly Kern. Who triple captain this week? I'd go for Bruno. Say Man United. Hopefully not. Hopefully all the assets blank. You'll be good as a horse race announcement, slamming. Thank you. Kane or Fernandez for me. Play Matip or Broya, play Broya. Pogba, not for me. Play Broya or Mahrez. Already have Adams. I'd play Broya, just go double up Mikal. Play Kulusevski or Tony. I'd go Kulusevski. My wife hates football, says Jack. Thank you for that exclamation in chat. Bench Robertson or James. I'd bench Robertson and play James, and then just hope that if James doesn't start, he doesn't come off the bench. Start Broya or Kulusevski. I'd start Broya. Time's up. Yes, 12 o'clock has come, local South African time. We have Wood captain. So this was my team that I had. So hopefully it's the same as you guys saw on screen. I think it is. So yeah, Wood captain, Saka vice captain. Everything looks good. Hopefully it's a green arrow. So yeah, it's going to be the end of the stream, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully I answered you guys' questions. And we've taken a punt this week. Hopefully it pays off. And hopefully the United assets stay quite quiet. Son and Salah bang. And we're looking at a healthy green arrow come game week 34. I'm not going to be doing a dayline stream next week and probably no content because I'm flying to Namibia next week. So I might try to do some videos, but I think it's going to be quite tough over there. So this might be the last time you guys see me for about a week. So hopefully you guys have a safe week and a safe long weekend and a safe Easter if you guys do celebrate it. And hopefully the green arrows are in our favor. But I'm going to sign off. It's been Davey FPL and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.